you ever looked at someone at the top of your network marketing team and thought, how is she doing that? Because I have, and for a long time, I thought if I just paid close enough attention, like took enough notes, showed up to enough calls, I could figure out what she was doing and do it too. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to understand why that wasn't working. And when I finally figured it out, it was one of those moments where everything got very clear very fast. What she had built and what I was being asked to build were not the same thing, not even close. Let me paint you a picture because I think a lot of you are going to recognize this. So there are women in network marketing, usually at the top of the organization, who have built something that looks like a full media empire, like a website that's been around for years, a book, maybe two, a cookbook, a podcast, a presence on every major platform with a following that actually engages, speaking gigs, collabs with other high-profile people, and behind the scenes, a team. People helping them create content, manage their community, run their programs, etc., right? These women are genuinely impressive. I'm not here to take anything away from what they built. They worked for it. But here's the thing. Most of what made them successful had very little to do with network marketing. They had already built a personal brand, an audience, a platform, and network marketing was one income stream inside the larger ecosystem. And people want more access to their world. They want to be in their orbit. And so they join their team, largely on autopilot, like hands off, because the authority was already there. And now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Those same women, the ones with the books, stages, the teams behind them, were the ones telling the rest of us to duplicate what they were doing. And we were trying, like genuinely trying, and showing up to every live call, taking notes, implementing strategies, following the playbook, and waiting for the next piece of direction, like it was going to be the thing that finally made it click. But we were not in the same place in our business that they were. We didn't have the platform or the audience. We didn't have the team or the budget or the years of built-up credibility. We were essentially being asked to execute a strategy designed for someone who had already arrived, and we were still trying to figure out how to get started. That's not duplication, that's just overwhelming. And I'll give you a really specific example of what that looked like for me. At the time, it was all about webinars. That was the strategy. And we were told to invite everyone we knew, friends, family, old colleagues, anyone, to this webinar that our upline was running. We'd do all the relationship work, get people on the call, and at the end, she'd tell everyone to get in contact with the person that sent you, which sounds fine on the surface, except what just happened? She ran the presentation, she built the credibility, she was the authority in the room, and we were just the referral source. So I actually tried to create my own version of the webinar at one point. Same content essentially, but I didn't have the audience to fill it. And honestly, I didn't feel fully content delivering what wasn't mine yet. So I couldn't build any momentum around it. And looking back, of course I couldn't. I was performing someone else's expertise without having developed my own. And that's the thing about borrowed authority. It works great for the person lending it, but for the rest of us, it just kept us dependent. So always waiting for the next webinar, the next script, the next thing to invite people to, and never building anything that we could stand behind on our own. And I say this with zero bitterness towards those women. They built something real, but what they were teaching was never going to build us something like that. It was only ever going to build them bigger, because nobody, not once on any call that I attended, stopped and asked us the question that actually mattered. Why does your business exist? What do you want to be known for? And why should anyone care? And that sounds harsh, but I want you to sit with it for a second. Why do you exist as a business? Like, what do you bring to the table that is specific to you? Your experience, your perspective, your story. Who are you actually trying to reach? And why would they choose you over the 40 other people on your team selling the same products? Nobody taught us to ask that. We were taught to duplicate and not to differentiate. like to blend into the system and not stand out from it. And the women who eventually built something that lasted, the ones who figured it out, they got there when they stopped trying to copy someone else's empire and started building their own foundation. Something smaller at first, yes, something that actually fit where they were, but something that was theirs. And they stopped waiting for direction from the top and started asking themselves what they actually stood for. That shift from follower to founder is the thing that changes everything. And it doesn't require a book deal or a speaking gig or a team behind you. It requires getting honest about who you are, who you help, and what you want to build. So, what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it starts with clarity. Not a strategy or a content calendar. It starts with clarity on your lane, your message, and what you're building toward that belongs entirely to you. The women at the top of the organization had that clarity, whether they developed it intentionally or stumbled into it over time. And that's what made the duplication work for them. They weren't actually duplicating. They were executing from a place of knowing who they were and what they stood for. They just didn't teach that part. And you can absolutely build that without the book, without the speaking gig, without the big budget. But you have to start by understanding where your gaps actually are. Like what's working, what's missing, and what needs to be built first. So that's exactly why I created the Authority Audit. It is a free diagnostic that walks you through the 4 foundations of building authority in your business: your lane, your message, your assets, and your visibility. And it shows you where you're solid and where you're leaving momentum on the table. So most women who go through it tell me they finally feel like they can see their business clearly for the first time. Not overwhelmed by everything they don't have, just clear on what to work on next. So the link to take the Authority Audit is in the description and pinned in the comments. And it's free, takes about 10 minutes, and it will tell you more about where to focus than any duplicatable strategy your upline ever handed you. And before you go, I'd love it if you drop a comment and tell me when you think about the women at the top of your organization. Does their success feel like something you could actually build toward? Or does it feel like you're playing a completely different game? Because you might be, and that's worth knowing. I'll see you in the next video.